Data Operations Manager for NHS Pensions. I'm joined by Jackie Thompson from our Stakeholder Engagement team, and we're your presenters for today. The webinar will be available on YouTube, and a summary of the questions and answers will be emailed to all participants. This will include any questions that we are not able to respond to today due to time restrictions or because we need further information to provide you with a comprehensive response. Today we will cover both NHS Pensions and employers' legislative requirements for the submission of data and the timeline for updating your records. We will walk through POL year-end submissions and also some of the other functionality available. We will then answer any questions you have about your NHS Pensions data.
Although the pension contributions are paid by yourself monthly, we still require you to provide member details at the end of each year. Your members' records are only updated at year-end or if they leave your employment, and then you must submit a termination form. All changes to the employment details must be submitted with the annual update. The information on how to record these changes will be shown later in the session. Changes to personal details can also be completed throughout the year on the SD55G form, which is available on Pensions Online. It is important that we record the changes to the employment as the members' benefits are worked out on this information. The consequences of not complying to this means we are unable to provide a membership statement for the member, and NHS is required to provide 100% of membership statements for our 2015 scheme members. It is only possible for us to calculate to the latest updated year. If you do not submit the year-end data and correct any errors prior to the deadline date, the annual benefit statement will be calculated on the previous year's information. And if your members then require a current estimate, they may be charged. For information about calculating the information for calculating the ABA annual benefit statement is submitted on or around the 23rd of June for statements to be available to members from August. Updates to members' records after this date will not be reflected on our members' benefit statements. In addition to the impact on your members, failure to provide the information can result in financial consequences for your organisation. Where the data is not received, employers are not compliant with the NHS Pensions and HMRC legislation. HMRC requires the submission of data by the 6th of July, and the employer may face financial penalties if this deadline is not met. The Stakeholder Engagement team will contact individual employers and may report any non-compliance to the pensions regulator, which again could result in financial penalties.
This is an overview of year-end activities that we have undertaken since January and the timeline for year-end updating. In January, NHS Pensions advised all employers that from the 1st of April 2017, data cannot be provided by spreadsheet if an organisation is a registered POL user. The reason for this is to improve the processing of data submitted. POL validates the data you are submitting and highlights potential issues. This enables you to correct or confirm your data prior to submission. These are errors or issues that would prevent the updating of the member record and produce data errors. Updating through POL within the required timescale will reduce the work required by both yourselves and NHS Pensions following the year end. NHS Pensions are expecting more than 1.4 million year-end 31/3/17 updates, and 204,000 of these member records will be updated through POL. Because of the validations, the error rate for POL is significantly lower than when employers submit spreadsheets. Although there was an increase in the error rate in 2016, system improvements implemented during the last 12 months will increase the success rate for 2017. So, looking at the timeline, you can see that during January and February, NHS Pensions and employers have continued with data cleanse activities, which have seen employers correct and clear in excess of 26,000 errors and NHS Pensions more than 52,000 errors. This means that these records are now updated to 2016 and should update successfully for 2017. We have also carried out an exercise to confirm and improve contact information held by us. Your year-end updates can be submitted from the 1st of April. You cannot submit a year-end 31/3/17 prior to this unless it is for a member who is retiring and claiming their benefits before the end of June. April, May and June are the peak times of year for the NHS Pensions data team. To improve the service, we are providing for POL employers who submit their year-end updates early. We will prioritise data cleanse activities for yourselves for the period from the 1st of April to the 28th of April. This means that early submission of your year-end updates will allow you to resolve issues before the cut-off date for the annual benefit statements on the 23rd of June. This slide shows the stages of the year-end update processing and also some good working practices to help improve the updating of your records. At steps 1 and 2, prior to year-end, you need to ensure that all of your member records are updated to 2016 and NHS Pensions have the joiner details for any new members who have joined from the 1st of April. You can do this by checking your ADP4 on POL, which we will be showing you when we go through the POL functions. Submit any missing year-end updates, joiners or leavers, and correct any data errors shown on POL. From the 1st of April, we follow steps 3 and 4, where you submit your year-end updates for processing by NHS Pensions. At step 5, ensure that your updates have processed successfully by checking your ADP4 again the following day. If your member records are updated to 31/3/17, follow the green arrow where no further action is required. If the update has not been successful, follow the red arrow where you then need to check POL error handling to find the reason why. Take the appropriate action to correct any errors that are allocated to you. You may also have errors allocated to NHS Pensions. These errors are only allocated to NHS Pensions as further information is required from you or another employer to update the record, or the facility is not available in POL to correct and update the record. If you also check these errors and can provide NHS Pensions with the information required, we will not have to email you for the details. After you have corrected any errors, you should again check the ADP4 and continue to do this until all records are updated to 31/3/17. It is also good practice to check the ADP4 when you have submitted any joiner or leaver details throughout the year. Jackie will now explain how to log on to POL and how to submit your updates.
POL is accessed through the NHS Pensions website. This is the current screen, but this will change when we do transition to our new website in April. Employers, you need to click on the quick link under Pensions Online, and this will give you the full list of options, including logging onto Pensions Online via the N3 and all our user guides. The user guides cover all available functions on Pensions Online. Today we will be focusing on section 18, which shows you how to update your records. This is a new view of our website. We will also be able to access that through the Employer Hub on every page, as you can see there. Once you've gone through to Pensions Online, it will ask you to register, sign in, or there is some frequently asked questions. The bottom screen shows you the login page. You require a PIN number and password to access the system. If you've forgotten these, you will be able to, or have been suspended as a user, please contact the number shown on screen. This number will also be shown again at the end of the session. Also, if you're not the registered user for your organisation, you will also need to contact this number and they will advise you how to amend the main Pensions Online user. Once logging in, you will be given a number of options. We'll just give you a quick overview of each of the functions available to you as a user. The e-forms will be the area we are looking at today, and Joanne will go through some of the functions of those shortly. In Member Zone, you can provide your members information such as service details or estimates. The notifications is just a request for information from NHS Pensions, and they will remain on Pensions Online until they are resolved. The notifications you will receive are if the member is not eligible to rejoin the pension scheme because they're over eligibility criteria, you will receive a re-employed pensioner notification advising you of this fact and instructing you to return any contributions. The GS184 notification is sent to you where the NHS Pensions has amended the record and you need to make a note of the change. The 55 notifications are issued when a joiner or an annual update is processed to the member's electronic record. This will also include members' personal and employment details. It also confirms the member number and will include any important information, for example, if the member is special class. The non-updated records is a function that shows you a list of all the members that are currently not updated to the current financial year. You need to ensure that you are updated to the current financial year before you proceed to update 2017. The notice board will show you where an award or a refund has been paid. Some of the other notifications are the protected eligibility. This will also show you what scheme your member is in and whether they are fully protected or they will transition to the 2015 scheme in the future. You will also receive, if a member dies, then we receive a termination form with an exit code of 14, death in service. You will be instructed of what action you need to take. Also, a dismissal confirmation notice when a record has been closed down with an exit code of 02. Again, this requires further action by yourself, and this explains what action is required. Joanne will now go through the forms with you.
Okay, this shows you all of the forms that are available on POL. So today we will be going through the ADP4 and the SD55 update. We will also show you the non-updated records. So guidance for all of the forms is given in the POL guide. This is the ADP4. Please be aware that all of the member data shown on here is anonymised and is not genuine. So the ADP4 is shown on the forms page as EA code change. This description is correct, however, the form can be viewed at any time to get an overview of your members' data. The latest year-end update is shown in the right-hand column. If any records still need to be updated to 2016, or if any members are missing from this, remember to check error handling to see if you've submitted data or a form that has not processed. If details are missing, you will need to return to the forms page to submit the SS10 or missing update before proceeding with your 2017 data. Ensure that you have the figures required for your year-end updates at hand, and then select the SD55 annual update from the forms page. You will then be asked to give the member's NI or membership number to be taken to their record. If there is more than one employment, they will all be shown, and you need to select the employment that you wish to update. This will then take you to the SD55 annual update for the member. So this is the SD55 annual update screen that you will see in POL. The member's personal details, employment details such as date of commencement, whole-time, part-time status, and the earliest year requiring an update will be pre-populated. As mentioned earlier, if the record has not been updated to 31/3/16, you cannot do 2017 until all of the missing years have been done. Help with completing the form can be found in the POL guide, and there are help screens available for some fields that you can access by clicking on the little yellow question marks. I'll go through each field that we need to complete. So starting at the employee's contributions, this is the amount of contributions you have deducted from the member during the year. There are currently 7 different contribution rates, and the amount deducted must be at the valid rate based on the assessment of their pensionable earnings at the 1st of April 2016 and any rate changes during the year. POL will carry out a validation check against the contributions and the pensionable pay when you submit this form, and will highlight the field if the figures are not within an accepted range for the amount of the pensionable pay. If contributions have been deducted incorrectly, the payments will need to be adjusted and you will need to collect any arrears from the member. Remember that if the actual pay has been reduced due to sick leave or maternity leave, the contributions for the member will also be reduced. This figure should not include any AVC, AP or ERBO payments. The next field is the employee's pensionable pay. This is the total pensionable pay for the year that contributions have been collected on, and the employee contributions figure you have entered above should be based on this figure. It should not include deemed pay. Deemed pay is where the member has had a reduction in pay, usually due to illness or maternity leave, but for the calculation of pension benefits, the amount they would have earned for the period is added back into the pay. This is what we call the deemed pay. You will need to notify us of any mid-year contribution rate changes when submitting your update, or it could create an error when we process the data, but I will talk about this more in a minute. Employees pay pension contributions based on the actual reduced pay they have received, but employers' contributions are based on the pay including the deemed. If the member is part-time, please remember that the contribution rate is based on the whole-time equivalent and the contributions are collected on the actual pay. The next field is the contribution rate at year-end. You would have assessed the contribution rate payable from the 1st of April 16, and unless there has been a mid-year contribution rate change, this is the rate that you will show here. If the rate has changed, you need to show the contribution rate at 31,317 in this field. This must be a valid contribution rate and do not include any additional percentage that is being paid for added years. Employers' contributions. This is the amount of contributions the employer has paid based on the employer's pensionable pay figure for the year. The employer's contribution rate is currently 14.3%. POL will carry out a validation check against the employee contributions and pensionable pay when you submit this form, and again will highlight the field if the figures are not within an acceptable range for the amount of pensionable pay. Next is the employer's pensionable pay. The employer's pensionable pay should include any deemed pay due to a reduction for sick absence or maternity leave or any other reason. If there is no deemed pay, the figure should be the same as the employee's pensionable pay. So just to recap, the employee's pensionable pay and contributions are based on the pay excluding any deemed amount, but the employer's pensionable pay and contributions are based on the pay including any deemed pay. Information on calculating the employer and employee pay, including further details about deemed pay, can be found on our website as well. The employee's gross pay. In this field, you need to enter all earnings for the financial year, including any non-pensionable earnings for things such as bonuses and overtime. Employees' AVCs. This is the amount of the additional voluntary contributions paid for extra membership or a bigger lump sum for the year. This is for added years only. Please remember to exclude any additional pension or early retirement reduction buyout payments, which is your ERBO, as you enter these details later on in this form. NHS pensions also do not need to be advised of payments for money purchase or freestanding ABCs. So next is ERBO. If the member does have a contract for ERBO, please enter the amount paid during the year in here. Non-pensionable days. In here you should enter for such as strike days and unpaid sick leave in the period. The figure required just relates to the 1st of April 16 to 31/3/17, so please don't enter anything in there that is greater than 365 days. Total number of pensionable hours or paid sessions worked. Enter the total number of hours or sessions up to and including the 31st of March. Always round up to the nearest hour. This figure is validated against the standard whole time hours and sessions for the job to ensure it does not exceed whole time for the period. So for example, if the standard hours for this person are 37 a week, then the figure that you put in here cannot exceed 1929 hours for a full year, or it would be 1955 if the whole time equivalent contract was 37.5 hours a week. If the member has another employment with a different employer, NHS Pensions will check the total hours for the year do not exceed whole time, and we will contact you if the pensionable hours with you do need to be amended at all. Additional pension. If the member does have a contract to purchase additional pension by instalments, you need to enter the identifier, which would have been sent to you by NHS Pensions when the contract was agreed, along with the total amount of contributions they have paid and also the number of instalments for the year that this refers to. At the bottom of the screen you can just see the member's private address. This should be pre-populated with the address that we currently hold at NHS Pensions. You should leave that in there just to confirm the address, but please update this with the correct details if it's blank or if the details that are shown in there at the moment are incorrect. This is a view of the SD55 once it's been submitted and if there are validation messages. The validation messages, as I mentioned, are created if you're trying to submit data that does not appear to be correct or within the expected parameters. It is possible to override and submit the details you have entered if they are correct. To do this, select the small square to the left of the field. You will then be presented with this override reason box that you must complete in order to submit the figures you have entered. Your entry in this box is confirmation that the figures you are providing are correct and can be used for the calculation of this member's NHS pension benefits. The message is recorded on the member record and will be provided to the member where appropriate, for example, if they query the figures at a later date. Where a validation does not give you the option of an override, the data is wrong and cannot be submitted. For example, where you've put hours in that exceed the 1955 and therefore they're more than whole time for that employment with you. Changes. There are a number of changes that you need to notify us of when submitting your year-end updates. These include changes to personal and employment details and also any mid-year contribution rate changes. You should reassess the contribution rate paid by the member if there is an increase in pay during the year. This would usually be due to an annual salary increase or a promotion. If the change in pay is due to an increase in hours or if it is temporary and likely to be for less than 12 months, you do not need to reassess. These are just general examples and the most likely reasons that we find for reassessment, but if you're unsure, again, further information can be found on our website. Where there has been a change to the contribution rate during the year, you need to include details of the change and give the employee contributions and pay split between each period against the appropriate contribution rate. Changes to personal and employment details should also be advised by selecting from the drop-down menu and completing the relevant information. You can enter multiple changes in both sections of the form. In the green box, you can see an example of the information that you need to provide for a mid-year contribution rate change. In this case, the member has paid 5% from the 1st of April to the 15th of August, and the contributions for this period were £400 and the pay was £8,000. On the 16th of August, they had an increase in pay and their contribution rate was reassessed. The contribution rate was increased to 5.6%, and now this shows that the contributions paid from the 16th of August to 31st of March were £952 and the pay was £17,000. The contributions for the year are a total of 1352 and the pay is £25,000, which are the figures shown on the SD55 above, along with the contribution rate at the year end of 5.6%. The total split across the change periods must reconcile with the figures for the year that you have provided on the SD55. When you have submitted your data, you will receive a message shown in red at the top confirming the submission. As explained earlier, you will need to check your ADP for the following day to confirm that the update has processed successfully, and if it hasn't, correct any errors. Jackie will be explaining more about identifying and correcting the errors. Following submission of your year end, another good practice is to check contribution rates for all of your members to ensure you are deducting the correct contributions from the 1st of April. There hasn't been a change to the contribution rates for the bandings from the 1st of April, and if you have applied the correct rates for last year and reassessed as appropriate, then there should be no change, but it is still a good idea just to check. Jackie will now give an overview of Pensions Online error handling.
Pensions Online error handling will give you two options: pensions allocated errors and employer allocated errors. The numbers in the top of the screen show you can click on them and they will then give you the numbers of each form, so the errors by volume against the forms. The bottom part of the screen will enable you to access the actual errors. You can update and correct employer allocated errors via Pensions Online, but you can also provide information to the pensions allocated errors to assist pensions correcting and updating the record. job. So if a member, the standard hours for the job is 37 hours a week, that is what you would be pensionable on. If a member has had 1 day's unpaid sick leave, you would record that on the SD 55 as a disallowed day because you would not pay contributions on that date. We've had, can we confirm the employer rate from the 1st of April? We're just waiting for the consultation to finish, so publication is going to be due imminently regarding the new employer contribution rate, including the levy from April.
What difference does it make if you are part-time or whole-time? If you are whole-time, then your pension is based on 365 days of the year. If you are part-time, we take those hours and we work out the whole-time equivalent days. So, for example, if you worked roughly 50 hours a week, if you worked 50% of your whole-time hours each week, then instead of your pension based on 365 days, it would be around 186 days. So we take the hours and work out how many whole-time days that is equivalent to. Our one-off bonus is pensionable. There's quite a lot of information on the website about one-off bonuses and whether or not they're pensionable. If it is a one-off and it's genuinely just a one-off, then it's not pensionable. If it's a bonus that is a one-off but annually, so somebody might receive that every year, it is still classed as a regular payment even though it's only once a year, so then it would be pensionable. But if it is just an exceptional case where a bonus is being paid, then no, it wouldn't be pensionable.
The only members of staff that have not got a record on the ADP4, as advised earlier, you would need to check to see whether there is a joiner form in error or input the information by using the SS10 on Pensions Online. Somebody increases the hours during the year. If it's the actual hours, we do not need to record them, but you would need to record them in the amount of hours worked during the year. If a member leaves on the 31st of March, do you need to complete an annual update form? No, you can just actually complete the termination form with the termination date of 31/3.
Okay, that's all of the questions that we have time to cover today. We've got some contact information now on the screen for you if you've got further questions that you want to raise afterwards or if you need advice. But thank you everybody, and we will send out the questions and answers, including the ones that we haven't had time to cover for you today, and also links to some of the information on the website where we've had the more common themes through the questions. So thank you very much again for participating,